I think we're all quite excited that it could be the so-called flood tunnel booby trap system. Of course, we're going to investigate. We have to see what it looks like.
What Rick Lagina just uncovered beneath Oak Island may rewrite pirate history forever. A hidden treasure worth more than $110 million, buried for over 3 centuries. And it's only the beginning. Beneath the island's quiet surface, the team has found sophisticated death traps, evidence of a pirate banking network, and clues that could change everything we thought we knew about this mysterious place. Rick Lagina's journey began when a centuries-old, leather-bound journal surfaced in Halifax. Its ink had nearly vanished, but the symbols and coordinates were clear enough to suggest something extraordinary. A vast hoard of gold and artifacts hidden beneath Oak Island, protected by coded maps and ingenious flood tunnels designed to keep intruders out. As experts examined the journal, new connections appeared, links to infamous pirate captains from the late 1600s whose fortunes disappeared without a trace. Every symbol, every sketch seemed to merge worlds, Templar codes, Masonic geometry, and pirate insignias, all pointing toward one conclusion. Oak Island wasn't just a myth. It was a hidden vault, part of a secret transatlantic network where privateers and rogue merchants safeguarded their wealth far from royal eyes. Comparing old geological surveys with modern sonar scans revealed something astonishing. Beneath the money pit lay a series of perfectly engineered chambers, aligned in a way that couldn't be natural. Stories of glowing chests and deadly traps, once dismissed as folklore, suddenly felt chillingly real. With tension high, the crew brought in high-pressure drilling rigs and advanced scanners. Every sound in the dark seemed like a warning. The reading showed layered voids, lined with timbers and metal reinforcements, unmistakable signs of man-made construction. Rick cross-referenced his findings with 18th-century pirate logs and shipping routes, uncovering a pattern. Treasure shipments secretly rerouted to Nova Scotia, far from European patrols. Even more incredible were the flood tunnels, ancient anti-theft systems that redirected seawater at high tide, engineering centuries ahead of its time. Then came the moment that stopped everyone in their tracks, a vertical shaft, deeper than any they'd ever drilled, supported by ancient oak beams and corroded metal bands that had endured centuries underground. As the team debated whether to continue, Rick's focus never wavered. The risk was enormous, but so was the reward. When they finally broke through, they found an oak-reinforced door, its surface carved with pirate emblems, celestial maps, and strange coordinates. Nearby, coins from 1690, rusted keys, and carved tokens littered the ground like a breadcrumb trail leading straight into the past. Rick began to suspect this was no ordinary cache. It wasn't a tomb or a vault. It was a pirate bank, part of a hidden system that moved fortunes across oceans. As storm clouds gathered above Oak Island, the weight of history seemed to press down on the site. The crew braced themselves, knowing that whatever waited behind that door could redefine everything. But the pirates who built this labyrinth weren't just clever, they were deadly. Every passageway was designed to protect their treasure, and every misstep could be fatal. As lightning split the sky, the team prepared for their descent. The rope ladder swayed as they climbed into darkness, each footstep echoing through centuries. The air was thick and cold, filled with the smell of damp earth and rusted metal. Their flashlights caught glimmers of wood and stone, revealing the craftsmanship of those long-dead engineers. Every creak, every groan of the old timbers reminded them one wrong move could end it all. Yet beneath the fear was a current of excitement, the realization that they might be standing on the threshold of the greatest treasure find in modern history. Rick's voice cut through the silence. Careful. Every step counts. And with that, the team pressed forward, deeper into the darkness, toward the truth that had waited over 300 years to be found. Amid the rising tension, the crew began noticing small details that most might have missed. Coins wedged in cracks, medallions half buried in dust, broken tools left behind centuries ago. Some bore pirate markings, others seemed tied to early privateers who had once navigated these tunnels long before. Each fragment hinted at something larger, a story that had been silently alive beneath Oak Island for over 300 years. Then, something caught the light. A faint golden reflection shimmered across the chamber wall. So delicate at first, it looked like sunlight slipping through a forest canopy. Instinctively, everyone froze. No one dared to breathe. The silence was electric, every heart pounding with the realization. This was it, the moment Oak Island searchers had chased for generations. Step by cautious step, the crew edged forward. The shadows stretched long across the rough, until finally they saw it, a small alcove, untouched by time, sealed off from collapse and decay. When the lights hit it fully, gasps filled the chamber. What they saw next would erase every trace of doubt. Stacked neatly on wooden pallets, rows of gold bars glowed beneath their lamps, some etched with intricate pirate insignias that had survived centuries underground. Around them sat oak chests, bursting with coins, gemstones, and jewelry. Treasures from another age, proof of a legend long dismissed as myth. Rick Lagina reached out, his hand trembling as it brushed the rough lid of a chest. He could feel the centuries pressed into the grain, the stories sealed inside. Quietly, he did the math, the sheer weight, the density of the gold, and came to a staggering figure: $110 million. Later analysis would confirm it. Coins from Spain, France, and the Caribbean, all dated between 1650 and 1720. Proof that this find wasn't fantasy. It was the culmination of centuries of whispers, maps, and obsession. But the celebration was short-lived. Each bar, each chest sat precariously on fragile supports. One wrong move could collapse the entire chamber. The team worked quickly, constructing makeshift pulleys and braces, their movements precise and deliberate. It was part engineering, part ceremony, a slow, reverent extraction of history itself. Then, everything changed. A sudden click, a metallic echo. The floor trembled. Hidden pressure plates, laid by pirates long dead, had triggered flooding channels carved deep into the rock. Within seconds, icy water burst through narrow vents, gushing toward the treasure with terrifying force. Panic flared. Shouts filled the chamber as the crew scrambled to save what they could. Pumps roared to life. Barriers slammed into place. The air turned thick with the sound of rushing water and the pounding of boots on stone. Above them, the storm raged in tandem, lightning flashing, thunder rolling, rain hammering the earth as if nature itself was defending the treasure. Below, the team fought to keep control, balancing on the razor's edge between triumph and disaster. When the chaos finally slowed, the chamber was ankle-deep in swirling water. The crew stood soaked and shaking, exhausted but alive. Around them, the treasure glittered under the harsh beam of their lights. They had survived the pirates' final defense. But as the adrenaline faded, they realized something even greater than gold surrounded them. Amid the chests and coins were leather-bound journals, maps, and coded documents, soaked but intact. These weren't mere records. They were the true prize. The journals, yellowed with age, contained names, routes, and secret alliances, proof of a transatlantic pirate network that had spanned continents. Oak Island, it seemed, was not just a vault. It was a nerve center, a key node in a global web of piracy, trade, and secrecy that had operated under the noses of empires. Rick's eyes moved over the faded handwriting, tracing the symbols scratched into the margins, the same symbols carved into the treasure chests around them. The evidence was irrefutable. These pirates had created their own banking system, complete with codes, ledgers, and hidden deposits scattered across the Atlantic world. As the team worked to translate the cryptic writing, familiar names began to appear. Captain Kidd, Blackbeard, and others lost to legend. Their fates, once the subject of folklore, were now linked directly to Oak Island. The discovery sparked intense debate. Should they make it public, or would revealing these details unleash treasure hunters and looters across the globe? The room buzzed with both excitement and unease. In that flooded, torchlit chamber, surrounded by centuries of greed and genius, one truth became clear. The gold was just the beginning. The real treasure was the story itself, the revelation of a hidden empire that had quietly reshaped history, one buried secret at a time. Amid this intellectual unraveling, Juan and the engineering team began planning the extraction in earnest. Reinforced pulleys were designed, silent motors calibrated, and protective carts crafted to move the treasure carefully, every system engineered to avoid triggering centuries-old traps. Each gold bar and chest was lifted with surgical precision, every movement recorded, measured, and documented for historical preservation. Rick reflected on the lessons of past collapses and the cunning of the flood tunnels. He knew that patience and precision were just as vital as strength and courage. The work was grueling, long hours in tight, airless tunnels, the kind of labor that drained both body and spirit. Yet even in those oppressive conditions, moments of laughter and camaraderie kept the darkness from swallowing morale. Laughter echoed off wet stone walls as exhaustion met relief, and every small victory felt monumental. As night fell, the pressure deepened. The extraction continued beneath cover of darkness to avoid unwanted eyes. Every creak of wood, every shift of metal, every sigh of the wind above carried amplified weight. The crew worked in silent synchronization, a choreography of focus and grit. One mistake, one misstep could undo everything. Shadows danced against the rough walls, twisting in the flicker of headlamps, creating fleeting illusions of movement that set nerves on edge. Above ground, faint lights blinked across the tree line, distant but deliberate. It wasn't paranoia anymore. Someone was watching. Security tightened instantly. Cameras were mounted at strategic points, guards doubled their patrols, and alarms were tested again and again. Overhead, the storm intensified, thunder rolling across the Atlantic, lightning flashing over the island. Torrential rain turned soil to mud and made old beams groan with the weight of water. Below, droplets fell from the ceiling, tapping rhythmically against the gold-laden pallets, as if marking time. Rick was now forced to make decisions faster than he ever had. The balance was brutal. Speed versus safety. Every hoist of a pulley, every groan from the ancient supports carried life and death stakes. The sound of strained cables filled the chamber. Then, a sharp crack. One of the pulleys snapped under the treasure's weight. The gold chest swung violently, scraping the air, smashing dangerously close to the chamber wall. For a frozen second, time stopped. Every heart in that tunnel seized. Then, training took over. Shouts, commands, movement. The crew swarmed in perfect unison, stabilizing the load before it could slam into the century-old timbers. The sound of their breaths, quick and ragged, echoed through the pit. They had narrowly averted disaster. The scene had turned cinematic. Lightning flashing through cracks above, wind howling through ancient vents, the muffled roar of waves pounding the nearby shore. The chamber had become a stage where history, danger, and discovery converged in real time. Every lift, every whispered order, every bead of sweat carried the same message. This was no legend anymore. Oak Island was real. When dawn finally broke, pale light seeped down into the pit. Rick Lagina stood at the edge, soaked and sleepless, watching as the final pieces of the $110 million treasure were carefully lifted from the earth. The gold caught the sunrise, blinding, beautiful, and heavy with meaning. For a brief moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. But Rick knew this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something far greater and far more dangerous. The journals and artifacts found among the hoard weren't just proof of Oak Island's legends. They were a map, a guide to a hidden system of vaults stretching across oceans and continents. Historians would call it impossible. Economists would question its logic. But the documents told a different story. One of pirates turned financiers, men who built a secret empire beneath the waves and within the shadows of the New World. As word of the discovery began to leak, the team's excitement gave way to unease. Reporters would come, treasure hunters would swarm, and worse, those who had inherited the pirate legacies might return to reclaim what they believed was theirs. Rick stood over the pit one last time, rain still falling in fine sheets around him. The treasure gleamed below, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He realized the truth. The gold was only the surface. The real treasure was knowledge, and the real danger was that knowledge in the wrong hands. Oak Island had given up its secret, but it had also awakened something long asleep, something that had waited centuries for the wrong people to find it. And as the first sunlight touched the waves, Rick knew the greatest chapter of the Oak Island mystery was only beginning. The chamber seemed to pulse with history as Rick and the crew uncovered more than just gold. Hidden among the pallets and chests were compasses, sextants, and carved sigils, each instrument bearing the unmistakable mark of pirate ownership. These were not mere tools. They were navigational keys, relics that had once guided ships across vast oceans, charting secret routes through storms and shadows. Every etching, every scratch, whispered of calculated risks, covert journeys, and the ingenuity of men who had mastered both sea and secrecy. Then came something even more astonishing: fragmentary ship logs and letters, brittle with age, but still legible enough to reveal a world that official histories had long ignored. The pages spoke of trade, smuggling, and secret alliances, a shadow network of pirate operations that stretched across continents and oceans, hidden in plain sight. Each fragile scrap was a puzzle piece, hinting that Oak Island had been only one node in a vast web of pirate caches spanning the Caribbean, Europe, and North America. The emotional weight of the discovery was almost suffocating. Some crew members stood speechless, overwhelmed by the sheer gravity of the moment, holding in their hands the tangible pulse of the 17th century. Others wrestled with anxiety, aware that each hour underground carried not just the thrill of discovery, but the ever-present danger of collapsing tunnels, sudden flooding, or intrusion from rivals who might already be watching. Rick's mind raced with implications. If these treasures and documents were tied to European royal treasuries, as some markings suggested, then this was more than a local legend. It was a revelation that could rewrite the economic and political history of the Atlantic world. It meant pirates weren't just thieves. They were strategists, financiers, and perhaps even players in the covert economies of empire. Every compass, every medallion, every document was catalogued with obsessive care. Rick knew each piece was a key, one that might unlock another chamber, another hidden vault, another clue waiting across the sea. Soon, local historians were called in to verify the unbelievable haul. Their findings sent shockwaves across Nova Scotia and beyond. Coins minted in Spain, France, and the Caribbean, alongside jewelry, navigational tools, and coded parchments, offered undeniable proof. The legends of Oak Island were not myths, but records of fact. It didn't take long for the world to notice. Media crews swarmed the island, cameras flashing against the rain-soaked ground, capturing the glitter of gold and the awe etched on every face. Headlines exploded across networks. Pirate treasure, worth $110 million, found beneath Oak Island. For Rick, it was the culmination of a lifetime. Decades of obsession, setbacks, and quiet faith vindicated in a single moment. All the years of chasing whispers and shadows had led to something tangible, undeniable, and historic. The crew worked tirelessly, documenting and securing the artifacts for transport. Preservation specialists joined in, establishing protocols for stabilization and museum curation. It wasn't just about gold anymore. It was about legacy, about ensuring that the island's story would endure long after the last camera shut off. Yet even amid the floodlights and celebration, a deeper tension lingered. As Rick gazed into the pit, storm clouds gathering overhead, the reflection of lightning danced across the wet wood and gold below, a haunting reminder that Oak Island was far from done with its secrets. The journals and coded maps hinted at even more. Coordinates, symbols, routes marked with precision. 7 additional caches were referenced, scattered across the Atlantic world, from Nova Scotia to the Caribbean, each potentially worth hundreds of millions. The realization struck like thunder. Oak Island was not the fortress. It was the vault. Historians debated ethics and implications. Should these sites be explored or left untouched? Could the discoveries belong to the world, or did they still belong to the dead men who buried them? Greed, preservation, and danger collided in every conversation. Standing at the edge of the pit, Rick felt the storm's electric hum. Lightning flickered again, reflecting off the treasure below. A breathtaking tableau of history, danger, and triumph intertwined. Every instinct told him that the island's story wasn't finished. So there you have it, Rick Lagina's $110 million discovery that has rewritten pirate history forever. But make no mistake, this is only the beginning. The journals and maps recovered with the gold point to 7 more hidden caches scattered across North America and the Caribbean. Each could be worth hundreds of millions, and each carries its own peril. The real question isn't if more treasure exists, it's whether Rick and his team have the courage to follow the centuries-old clues to their ultimate end. Because if the journals are right, Oak Island was never the stronghold. It was the bank. The true pirate citadel still lies out there, buried beneath centuries of mystery, waiting for those daring enough to find it. What do you think? Should Rick follow the ancient trail, no matter the cost? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible discoveries that could change history forever. Because the Oak Island mystery, it's far from over. In fact, it's just beginning.